I'm about to show you a merciless Necromancer build for Season 3, the Wicked Necro Exploder. I'll walk you through my original Season 2 build guide video and reveal the huge Season 3 changes as we go along. Will this build be as strong as it was in Season 2? You're about to find out. Today we return to one of my most chaotic creations from Season 1, the Necro Exploder. A build where your skeletons' lifespan are shorter than a fly at a frog convention, as they're blown up by masochistic skeleton mages leaving nothing but bones and silence behind. But this isn't just a revisit, it's a full rebuild from the ground up, with stronger explosions, more damage, faster boss melts and way more survivability. This is the Necro Exploder Season 2 Reloaded. Let's start where it counts, the battlefield. And what better way to prove it than with a head-on confrontation against some of the game's most brutal bosses. First up, Aberoth.
So, you finally returned to me.
We step into the arena and before the fight can even begin, fear erupts from our exploding zombies, locking him down. This gives us an instant opening, no hesitation. We're already carving through his health before he has time to respond. And then it begins. His first slam hits the ground. The synergy of our build shows here. Layered defenses, smooth ward recovery and relentless pressure. Even when our health dips to 1900, it's not a crisis. It's a reminder that this build bends, but doesn't break. During combat, ward spikes to 7500, bringing our total EHP to 10,000. And you feel that cushion. Every moment, every hit, every time you stay in the fight instead of backing off. Then comes the final phase. All minions gone. The screen goes quiet for half a second, and then resurrection. A flurry of skeletal mages, a fresh golem, Dreadshade back in place, like nothing ever happened. Aberoth doesn't make it. At 16% health, the kill threshold triggers, and it crumbles into dust. Next, Abomination. No issues here. As you can see, his health is just quickly decaying while we stand still spamming our skeletons. And finally, the Harbinger. The visual chaos begins. Void orbs, slams, AoEs, and yet the flow is the same. Our DPS holds steady, our ward sustains, our golem soaks. Even when we drop down to 812 HP, the recovery is immediate. We're still standing, still summoning, still winning. And once again, as the boss hits that magical 16% health left, the screen flashes and it's over. 3 bosses, 1 build, no nonsense. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, consider hitting like and subscribe, it helps a ton. But now, let's pull back the curtain and break down exactly how all of this works. In this build, not all minions are meant to survive, and that's by design. Some live to serve, others to explode. And the beauty of it, we don't even lift a finger. That job falls to our skeleton mages, the dark entities of this build. They are the core. They stay alive, they do the detonating. And every time we summon a fresh wave of skeleton warriors, the mages sacrifice them in a flash of necrotic energy. This is all thanks to the Profane Ablation spell, triggered through the underlings node in the skill tree. It's a passive sacrifice, hands-free destruction. Let's pause for a quick comment on minion damage for Season 3. The minion power gain per level has been buffed quite a lot, as the minions will now do more damage as a baseline than what they did in Season 2. Let's resume the original build guide video. But the chain reaction doesn't end there. When our skeleton warriors fall, as they constantly do, there's a 30% chance that a zombie takes their place, rising from the carnage like a final act of defiance. And those zombies, they don't stick around either. They're living bombs, charging into enemies and erupting in necrotic fire, taking what's ever left with them. All the while, our fire golem acts as our personal bouncer, taunting enemies, soaking damage and applying pressure from the front line. And for those of you who are familiar with the original build, might notice that the fire rate's blasting firebolts are now gone and replaced with this fire-based juggernaut. And it's not by accident. By recruiting the golem to our ranks, we have a mad warmongering tank taking a lot of heat off of ourselves, meaning less dangerous situations and more survivability for ourselves. We scale its damage with all our fire modifiers from the passive tree, squeezing every bit of value out of this molten beast. Now, you can just as easily go for the fire rays from the original build, but just know that it's less tanky than with the golem setup, and expect to take more punches as mobs will be more in your face. Let's pause it there for a moment. Now, the fire rates I'm talking about here were included in the very first version I did of this build in Season 1. I'll link the original build guide video in the video description if you want to have a look afterwards. But with this setup, we go for the golem instead, as this gives us more survivability without reducing the damage output that much. Let's resume the original build guide video. This entire engine of destruction runs on using one single skill. Just press summon skeleton and watch the chain reaction unfold. Minions explode, zombies rise, enemies fall. Occasionally you'll need to resummon your mages, refresh your golem or reapply Dreadshade, but beyond that it's a smooth explosive loop. Behind the simplicity though there's depth. We use Dreadshade on our skeleton mages as these are our main damage dealers. It's important to get the Lone Watcher node so that we remove the Dreadshade health decay. Also, we want as many attacking buffs as possible with full points invested in the Lingering Doom node giving flat necrotic damage, as well as the Dying Covid node giving increased attack and cast speed. And the final cherry on this is the Grim Fate node, giving 60% more multiplicative damage. This synergy alone turns our skeleton mages into necrotic nukes. Then there's Summon Volta Zombie, a cornerstone of this build. We never cast it directly. Instead, through Awakening Presence, a zombie has a 30% chance to spawn every time a minion dies. And since minions are dropping like flies, zombies are constantly entering the field as self-destructing. For the original build, we wore 2 cycle of putrescence rings to make our zombies spawn even more frequently. In this version, we wear none. We rather go for a trade-off with the zombies being spawned a little less frequently, enabling us to rather go for the Phantom Grip Ring giving +2 level to minion skills, 4% base crit chance for minions and increased mana, which we'll get to the importance of soon. Let's pause for a moment. Here I'm referring to the original build guide from Season 1 where we used the cycle of putrescence rings to spawn Volta zombies even more frequently. However, for the Season 2 version of the build I discarded these 2 rings and replaced them with a Phantom Grip Ring for more minion based crit chance and the Ribbons of Blood Ring for more survivability for ourselves and our minions. I consider these to be more important factors than having the zombies spawn more frequently. Let's resume the original build guide video again. We also go for a pretty awesome 3LP Ribbons of Blood Ring. It's not a perfect fit for this build, but apart from the awesome legendary stats, it also makes it impossible for our minions to be crit, giving us a lot of increased health and increases our minions' health boost rate. Quite the ring. For Season 2, we've also added Corpse Bane in the skill tree, which makes zombie explosions apply Mark for death, lowering enemy resistances by 25%, a huge damage boost across the board. Yes, this makes the skill more expensive to cast, but that's where our mana engine kicks in. Every time a skeleton dies, which is constantly, we gain 50 mana from Mind Catcher, a key node in the Summon Skeleton skill tree. With up to 9 skeletons available to summon and explode, this becomes a steady self-sustaining mana loop. And mana itself isn't just for utility, it's a direct damage source. Thanks to the full points invested in the Forbidden Arcana node in the Summon Skeleton mage tree, we gain 5% more multiplicative damage per 25 max mana. With 434 mana, that's 85% more multiplicative damage stacked on top, just from this one synergy. To reach that mana level, we tap into the Warlock passive node, giving us 1 mana per intelligence as a threshold bonus. As his intelligence is a core stat for us, giving increased minion damage, flat minion health and ward retention, it's a quadruple win. We also push our mana through triple Exalted Gloves and a high tier mana roll on our weapon, and that leads us to gear. Quick comment on this. This is not our weapon anymore in Season 3. I'll reveal the new weapon in a dedicated section later on, so keep watching. For body armor, we've gone for a defensive triple exalted setup, boosting health, resistances and armor. A more offensive option would include increased minion crit chance, but for this iteration we're leaning into survivability. Ideally, we'll swap the vitality affix for intelligence to synergize better with the rest of the build. Our relic has a sweet tier 7 intelligence stat, and arguably on the best relic base item for this build. However, it has a low tier plus level to skeleton mages and a couple of tier 4 suffixes, so there's much room for improvement here. The most important stats for this build are increased base crit chance for skeleton mages, increased minion crit chance, minion necrotic damage, flat minion spell damage, plus level to any minion skill. Our weapon is a Soul Harvester one-handed axe, which gives access to powerful minion spell damage affixes and crucially allows us to use an offhand. Quick comment on this. This is not our weapon anymore in Season 3. I'll reveal the new weapon in a dedicated section later on, so keep watching. The offhand of choice, Opulent Focus. This base gives us intelligence, ward per second and ward retention, stacking our damage, minion health and defense in one slot. Now I did test the new Blight of Lachesis unique staff introduced in Season 2. It offers up to +2 skeletal mages, high increased minion damage and +2 levels to necrotic minion skills. Sounds tempting, and it is, but it comes at a very steep cost. You see, you lose the massive ward and survivability of the Opulent Focus, so even if you manage to craft perfect suffixes with high tier minion spell damage, the staff becomes a glass cannon option. For our build, reliability matters more, which is why we stick with the Soul Harvester plus offhand combo. The Death Rattle is also an option to use here for the great minion damage stats both implicitly and explicitly, but it comes with the cost of our minions taking more damage. And the Amulet I got here offers some insane defensive stats and minion health, in addition to some solid increased minion damage, so overall I stuck with that. Offensively, we only take one blessing, increased minion damage from the Spirits of Fire timeline. Ours rolled at 94%, nearly perfect. As for passives, the standouts are Rite of Undeath, giving 15% necrotic and elemental damage per point, and Blaze of the Forlorn, a brutal 70% minion critical strike multiplier. 2 nodes, insane value, and a huge chunk of why this build erases enemies before they can react. Let's pause here. This is the perfect time to go through the new passive tree changes for Season 3 impacting our attacking setup. First, the node to get the +1 maximum skeleton has been removed in Season 3 and is now a threshold bonus of 3 points rather than just a 1 point bonus. To get the bonus, we also then get the basic stat of the node, giving us 24% chance to resummon a skeleton whenever it dies after 3 seconds. This combined with the immortal node in the skeleton skill tree, the chance increases to 44%. This isn't important for this build, as we spam summon skeleton constantly anyway, but it can be a nice mechanic to rely on if you struggle with mana sustain issues at any time. Further, we spec full points into the node, giving us 5% base critical strike chance for our minions. This is great. The next big thing introduced in Season 3 is the 7-point threshold bonus added to the Rite of Undeath node, giving our minions 1% penetration per overcapped resistance. This is specific to each resistance, so for instance, necrotic resistance will give necrotic penetration, and this is great for us since we spec heavily into overcapping our necrotic resistance, giving our skeleton mages over 40% necrotic penetration from this bonus. And feel free to stack even more necrotic resistance if you can. Next up is the Forbidden Teachings passive node introduced in Season 3. The threshold bonus of this node gives us 1% increased minion critical strike chance per intelligence, and since we spec heavily into intelligence, this amounts to over 100% chance. The new node Disciples of Necromancy now has a threshold bonus of 3 points that give us +1 maximum skeleton mage. Before Season 3, we got this stat from one node with 1 available point, but the general stats we get from this new node in Season 3 is also just perfect for our build. Flat minion spell damage and increased cast speed. If you feel like you have more than enough survivability, I would recommend removing 2 points from the Tyrant node and rather spend them here to get even more damage. Now, before we head into the next section, I just want to tell you that there are plenty of Season 3 Necro build guide videos coming soon, so make sure to subscribe to not miss out. You can also support me by clicking the join button or through the Patreon link in the video description. Thank you so much for all your support. Now let's look at some of the most exciting things introduced in Season 3, Primordial items. So, I've thought about this for a while, and I think the most beneficial Primordial item for this build is the Horn of the Bone Wisp wand. Now, there are a lot of interesting stats on this one. We got an implicit ward retention boosting our survivability, we got up to +4 levels to intelligence skills, which is 4 additional skill points to all our skills by the way, and we got a high increased minion damage stat and intelligence, and finally the awesome minion flat spell damage stat. If we combine this with the tier 7 minion spell damage affix, then we're really talking. I've chosen mana and mana spent gain as ward as the second legendary stat for survivability, and since mana gives our skeleton mages more multiplicative damage. But you can replace this with minion necrotic penetration if you want as well. This item makes me even more excited about this build for Season 3, and it should boost both the attack and defense a lot compared to previous seasons. So, like what you see, make sure to click the thumbs up like button. In the chaos of necrotic explosions and zombie detonations, someone's got to keep us alive. Enter the Bone Golem, our frontline brute, our meat shield on steroids. Unlike Season 1, where we had to rely more on distance and positioning, this time we got a personal tank who throws itself headfirst into every mob pack, soaking up aggro and diverting danger away from us. It's not just a wall, it hits like a truck too, but its real job, keeping us out of harm's way. This is a hybrid ward and health build, and our effective pool has seen a major glow up since Season 1. While idling outside of combat, we sit at over 7,100 as a total pool, nearly 2,000 more than last season. In combat, our ward spikes up to around 7,000, giving us a total effective health pool of over 10,000. That's a full extra layer of flesh between us and them. So, where does all this ward come from? Let's start with our spam button, Summon Skeleton. Every time we cast it, we benefit from the passive node that gives us 100% of mana spent as ward when using minion skills. Since we're spamming this constantly, it's pumping out ward like a fountain. Let's pause here. The passive node we just looked at has been removed in Season 3, so we don't get the 100% mana spent gained as ward stat from here anymore. However, the new passive node introduced in Season 3, giving us 10 ward per second per active minion, heavily weighs up for this, and is probably even much better than the node that has been removed. So I can only see that the ward generation has become even better for this build in Season 3. As for leveling, this version differs some compared to the Season 1 version. From the start, we go all in on Summon Skeleton, and after a couple of levels, Summon Bone Golem as well. After 5 points invested in the Necromancer tree, specialize in Summon Skeleton Mage and go straight for the Underlings node to make them sacrifice or summon skeletons. At level 35, specialize in Summon Volatile Zombie, and finally at level 50, specialize in Dreadshade. Follow the detailed progression sliders for each skill in the build planner in the video description. I think this build has great potential for Season 3 and should be a lot stronger, especially for damage, while at least retaining our insane survivability, or even boosting that area too. With the perfect fit of the Primordial unique wand, the Horn of the Bone Wisp, this can skyrocket this build and make it even more fun to play. Let's go Season 3. Now, I want to remind you that I'm gonna release a lot more Season 3 Necromancer build guide videos leading up to Season 3, so make sure to hit the subscribe button to not miss out. And if you want more build guide videos, click on the video card showing on the screen.